You can spot bad thinking in other people. You can see when they're over rationalizing or getting defensive, or they're so deep into something that they can't really see their way out of it. But with yourself, it's really hard to see that. Like, it's not visible to you, but other people can see it. And it doesn't mean that you're less intelligent or that you wouldn't know how to think critically. It's that you're using a completely different mechanism for yourself than you are for other people. Like, if I was to tell my wife I was going to go take out the trash in the morning, the night before, I tell her, yes, I will do this. And we go to bed. And in the morning, my dogs wake me up. I'm running outside to take them out because I have a puppy, so I only have a couple minutes. And then after that, I'm going to feed them and I'm doing some of the chores in the morning. And by the time I realize it, the trash left. So I missed my shot. My wife comes down. She asks me if I take out the trash. And that's when I remembered I should have taken out the trash. In this scenario, I would be explaining to her all of the things that happen as to why I didn't do the thing I said I was going to do. And for her, it would be very easy to see if I'm getting defensive or if I'm making excuses or if I'm trying to protect my ego and not accept that I'm wrong. Not that these things would necessarily happen in this situation, but we can understand both people in the situation and how they react and have that conversation. And so you can see in the moment that I would be explaining what my intent was, that these were all of the things that I did. This was all of the information that I had. These were the reasons why I was not able to follow through with what I said. And for her, she would be able to see all of the behaviors. The information that she has versus the information that I have are two completely different data sets. And for her, it's very easy to look at me over rationalizing, getting defensive, all of those things that one person would be able to see when they are judging by behavior. And for me, I'm explaining, I'm giving context, I'm painting the picture, I'm describing the intent of these things. And in that, we can see that we are using two completely different labels for the same situation, which turns into two completely different conversations. And this is exactly why you would be able to see bad thinking in other people, but not in yourself, because we're looking at two different things from two different pieces of information. And one person has so much more information than the other person, and that information starts to blind you to believe that this information is right, it is needed, and it's necessary, when the other person may have a different picture that is not including those things, but also rendering those things irrelevant to what the situation actually is. And this is where that becomes specific, that in how we are describing what is happening is how we're able to identify when we're looking at our behavior versus when we're looking at our intent. That if you watch somebody else fail to follow through, the vocabulary changes, and this is how we're able to identify when it's happening. And that's how we understand when we see it in other people where bad thinking is occurring. And this is really low stakes in this example, but it can affect you in much bigger ways. You could have a soft spot in your relationship. It could be happening at work. I think we've seen when people are trying to push a project that everybody kind of knows isn't going to work, but they've been so invested in it. They've sunk cost fallacy themselves into believing that this is necessary, and that the goal is to explain all of the reasons why they believe it is necessary to everybody else. And the people who are on the outside kind of understand that those things don't really matter, that that's not even really the problem, and more information isn't actually going to be helping you. Or you could even see it in yourself. If you're one of those people who's trying to stop self-sabotaging themselves, we'll say, they're trying to learn a new skill, they're trying to change some behaviors and traits that they have, and they're in that research phase. And they keep telling themselves, I just need more information before I can actually start doing the thing. We are using the intent of why we're doing something, and the behaviors aren't actually matching what that intent is. And of course, we're going to judge from the intent because that is information that only we have. Not everybody else has it. And because we're the only ones that have it, it feels like, well, if they had the information, then they would feel the same way. But if they're looking at the behavior, what is it that you're actually doing? How are you actually explaining your reasoning? If it doesn't make sense, all of that intent isn't going to make it clear. It's going to overshadow all of what you're trying to do and only look at the behavior. It doesn't matter if your intent is actually genuine or if it's well reasoned. If you come off as defensive, people are going to think that you're defensive. And there's only one way to really catch this, and it's by identifying those labels that we talked about. That if you get to the point where you believe that you have to explain to prove why you're right, that you have to paint the full picture, that you have to add context, these are the labels that we have identified that say, hey, that is our bad overthinking, and that is not the good objective judgment that we would be giving other people. And in that, it means that we have to separate ourselves from whatever is occurring. That if somebody else was giving out the same explanations that we would be given, would we accept them? Or would we look at that and identify some sort of judgment to say that this is actually bad thinking, that this isn't actually the situation, that if we have a bad project, all of the reasons why we should keep doing it doesn't add up to why we should keep doing it. You're showing why it is that you want to keep doing it, not why we should keep doing it. And so in this third party perspective, if we say all of this information that I would give to that person, if I wouldn't accept it for them, then I know that I'm actually the one who is creating the bad thinking here, that somebody else is going to view this as not logically sound, that we are not doing the thing that we would accept somebody else doing. Because the intent doesn't matter. Like, if the intent is good, of course that's good. There is some value to it. But if the reasoning behind why something is not doing the thing that you want it to do, the explanation is not going to add more context that is valuable to other people. And if you can treat yourself as that third party, you'd have to strip away all of the subjective information and keep to the objective situation that's occurring. And in that, you would identify, hey, am I actually over explaining, or am I trying to reason something that confirms my own bias? Because the people who do this the best aren't the most self-aware people. They're the ones who understand that if their behavior doesn't match what they see in other people when we think that they are producing good critical thinking, then we know that we are subject to that bad critical thinking. We're subject to getting defensive or coming off as defensive, as trying to protect our ego, as not admitting that we're wrong, as arguing. This is the information that we would like to know in ourselves, because of course we can point it out in other people when we don't have a dog in the fight, or even if we do, we know that we can see what it is that they're doing because we're using our own eyes. And when we're the ones doing it, we're not really able to see that same perspective. So we have to force ourselves outside of that perspective, make it as neutral as possible, and then identify if it makes sense or not.